welcome back to another episode of the Steve Freeman Podcast. We are in our series, the 12-Step Program for Musicians. We've been through admission, we've been through hope, and now we come to step number 3, which is having faith. Before we jump into it today, guys, don't forget, subscribe to the podcast no matter where you're listening or watching. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please subscribe to the podcast. Same thing with iHeartRadio or Google Podcasts. If you're watching the video version on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave a comment. Tell me what you think down in the comment section below. If you want to find out more about me, stay in touch, join my weekly newsletter. You can do that at my website, thestevefreeman.com. Very easy to find. All right, let's jump into today's episode. Today, step 3, faith. Now, as a quick recap, step 1 is admission. We've admitted we have a problem. We know the music business is addictive. We know and we've admitted that we're addicted to it. That was step 1. Step 2, hope. We have to have a circle of people, or at least one person, a higher power, or somebody outside of ourselves that we can turn to draw hope, inspiration. It's got to be somebody that is selfless and passionate about us. Somebody who has nothing to gain by giving us incorrect information, or somebody that has nothing to gain by the more success we get. They succeed when we succeed only from an emotional and supportive standpoint. Maybe that's family, maybe that's somebody else, but it's very important to have hope. Now, step 3 is having faith. Once we know that we have gone in the wrong direction, we were doing things completely wrong, we have that person in our life that we can turn to and we can say, I have a problem, I need some inspiration, I need some hope, and maybe that person helps set you on the right path, or you set yourself on the right path. Now it's time to start making decisions to make sure that you don't repeat the same mistakes again. Because there's nothing, that's right? I mean, that's the whole thing about addiction, is that when you get addicted to it, it's hard to stay away from it. We get drawn to those wrong paths because honestly, sometimes the wrong paths are a lot more attractive than the right paths, right? Sometimes we see people, producers and songwriters that we think are just achieving all of the success and they're doing the things that we want to do. They're writing with the people that we want to write with. They're achieving a success level that we ourselves want to achieve. We see the things that they're doing, but for us personally, maybe those things are the wrong path. Maybe we're trying to do those things and follow somebody else's steps, follow somebody else's path to achieve success when we've got to find our own way. And we cannot let ourselves slip back into making the decisions that led us down the wrong path. Now, you've got to sit down and you've got to look and go, okay, we've identified these 5 things, 7 things, whatever they are for you. You've got to sit down and go, okay, those are what were feeding my addiction. Those were what were causing me to go down the wrong path and get involved with the wrong people, have the wrong circle, make the wrong decisions. Now you've got to start making decisions. And sometimes, in all honesty, most of the time, those decisions to turn around and find a different way are honestly, they're more difficult. A lot of times I have found making the right decision, number one, it's never as attractive most of the time. But making the right decision is hard. The road less traveled is uncomfortable. It's not as glorious, and most of the time it takes longer because the shortcuts in the music business are never the right ones, right? Everybody's looking for a way to make this happen faster, get there quicker, make more money, play bigger venues, record and produce larger artists. But there sometimes there are shortcuts. Believe me, there are shortcuts out there. I have yet to find one that is worth it. So now we've got to start going, okay, we know where we went wrong. We know that process X, Y, and Z leads me back to where I was. I don't want to do that, but now I need to find a new path. I need to find a new way. More importantly, I think this is where faith comes in, is that you have to have faith in the new destinations and new roads that you have decided to take. You can't do it half-heartedly. You can't do it constantly questioning yourself. Once you set a destination, you have to have faith that you're doing the right thing, that you've made the right decision. You have to take that inside and you have to hold on to it. You have to feed it, nourish it. You have to water it to watch it grow and watch it be fruitful. But the most important part of that process is having faith. I see so many artists, and this doesn't even have to, this is almost a perception that you can have just by looking at anybody, not just the artists that I've worked with, but I look out there and I see a lot of artists. They are hesitantly approaching their career. They will try this for a little bit, and then they'll try this for a little bit. Okay, now that didn't work, so we're going to try a Spotify playlist promotion, or now we're going to spend all this money to get fake views on YouTube, or we're going to do all these different things, but they do it almost half-heartedly and without complete confidence, without faith, and it's easy to spot. Once you create a plan for yourself in your career, it's important to commit to it 110% and have the faith in the decisions that you've made, that they're going to lead you in the right direction. And you've got to stand behind them. You've got to have your decisions back, no matter what other people say about it, no matter what other people think about it. That's another thing. And I might get into a side tangent here for just a second. But one of the big problems that I see when I sit down with an artist, or I'm developing an artist or producing an artist or just doing a consultation, whatever, I always hear about, they spend so much time telling me what other people have told them. This person said I needed to do this. This person said I needed to do this over here. This person said my music needed to sound more like this, or my voice needs to sound more like this artist, or I need to dress more. Why in the world do we put so much faith in what other people's opinion is? Because at the end of the day, guys, it doesn't really matter what anybody thinks. If you're an artist or a songwriter, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks about your song or how your song sounds. All that matters, and the only person it should matter to, is the end user. I see this in songwriting all the time, and I remember going back and looking when I was signed to a publishing company, and we would have these creative sessions. So we would bring in the songs that we had written, over the last month or whatever. And ultimately what they were critique sessions. And we would go into and play our songs for our rep at that publishing company. And then we would basically sit there while this person, this creative person, song plugger, creative director, whoever, they would basically critique our songs. We would listen to a song, they'd go, well, that hook needs to be stronger, or this verse needs to be stronger, or, what about changing this up, changing this word? And it's almost like their entire job was to tear down what you had created. Now, this was always a difficult process for me, because I can't think going back, none of the people that I ever sat in creative directive sessions like that were giving feedback and criticism on my songs, none of them had ever written a hit song themselves. None of them had ever produced a hit song themselves. So when I'm talking about having faith in what it is that you do, in the direction that you're going, don't fall prey to letting your faith in yourself rely on what other people think. Taking advice from people who haven't done what it is that you're wanting to do is a huge mistake. Now, look, I'm not saying that there are people at publishing companies or other producers may not have some helpful or corrective criticism on process. If they come from the business side of things, though, guys, you got to understand, not the creative. And that's what I always found odd, was that I'm having to sit in a room with somebody who is not a songwriter, who is not a producer, basically tear my work down and tell me how I need to do it more right so that they can do their job better. They can get the song cut. whenever they're not the ones making the decision on what songs get cut or not. But I always found that very difficult in the process to go sit down and play a song and then have somebody that has never written a hit song or never produced a hit song tell me what's wrong with my art. Tell me what's wrong with this song. Tell me that it should have been produced differently. That was always hard for me. And what it ended up causing me to do, because you got to listen to this. And it took a lot of time, but I also understood this. The reason they have a job, that's the basis of their job, right? The basis of their job to make themselves feel better and justify their position within the company is supposed to be able to have something corrective or critically profound to say to help you as the writer or you as the artist. Now, there's a difference between types of people. I have also been in other situations where the person giving me the feedback or the criticism was a hit songwriter or was another multi-platinum selling record producer. And when that person speaks, I listen because they have done it. They've been there. They've done it. And when they say, Steve, I might take a look at that chorus because, number one, I think that you can do better. I'm not saying that what's there is not right, or I'm not saying that what's there is bad. I'm just saying that I think if maybe you took another look at it, I think maybe you could make the song stronger. I think it's great the way that it is, but I think you could make it stronger. That's easy for me to take, and that's easy for me to have faith in, because what that is doing and what that person's doing is saying, hey, we have faith in you to make this thing the best that it can possibly be. It's good right now, but we think it can be great. And those people are a lot easier to take criticism from. And in all honesty, I think when you put yourself in that position, I don't think those people are being critical. I think what they're doing is trying to help you bring out the best in you. They are showing and having faith that you know what you're doing, and they have faith in you to make it even better. That can be a songwriting thing. That can be an artist thing. When you sit down and you talk to somebody who has developed and built successful artists, you need to listen to that person. And that's okay. Matter of fact, you want that. You want to have that kind of expertise working on your behalf and help mold you into the best possible songwriter or artist that you can be. But be very careful, again, who you put your faith in. You've set this new direction, and you want to surround yourself with people that continually seem to show that they have that faith in you. And they share the same faith in the destination and the direction and the path that you've chosen that you do. But be very careful. Stop just listening to everybody. Because I was dealing with an artist recently who I actually just had to stop working with for a while because he questioned everything. It was, well, I played it for this person and he said it needed to be like this. And I played it for this other person. She said she thinks it needs to be like that. Is just like wandering around in a dark room. You can't find the exit. You're just constantly accepting what other people say, whether or not they have any grounds or expertise or background in this type of business or success to be able to tell you that what you're doing is wrong. You just start taking all of this advice and internalizing it from all these other people. And that is so difficult because all it does is cause you to get lost. All it does is cause you not to be able to have complete satisfaction, 100% certainty, and exactly what we're talking about today. You lose faith in yourself. You lose faith in the destination that you've chosen, and you lose faith in the road that you've chosen to get you there. Having faith that you're doing the right thing is probably the most important thing. You cannot enter your path or this business or really anything else in life less than 100% confident. And not having that 100% faith in yourself to know that you're doing the right thing. Guys, this is so important. Stop listening to everybody else. If you want somebody's opinion, go ask people that fall into two categories. And I've talked about this in the past. If you want advice or you want consultation, you want mentorship, you want somebody that you can go to help steer you in the right direction, they have to fall into these two categories. Number one, they have to have successfully done what you're trying to do. Why in the world do you guys take advice or take counsel from people who haven't accomplished the goal you're trying to accomplish, who haven't been to the end destination, who've never been down the road and they don't know? Why are you taking that person's counsel? If they haven't been there and they don't know the directions, it's impossible for them to lead you there. That's number one. Number two, always seek counsel and advice from people who have absolutely nothing to personally gain from helping you. When you start realizing that you are asking all of these people for help or advice or counsel or even opinion, the worst thing in the world you can do is ask somebody for their opinion. But if you are going to ask them for their opinion, then you want to make sure the person you're asking is not a competitor or is somebody, it has to be somebody that stands to gain absolutely nothing by giving you nothing but 100% honesty and transparency. You've got to be asking somebody that doesn't benefit one way or the other, that just wants to help you succeed. So stop asking people for advice and what they think and asking for opinions from, number one, people who don't do this and who have never been to the destination you're trying to go to, because they can't help you get there. They don't know the way themselves. And number two, stop asking people who have something to gain by pointing you in one direction or the other. You have to have faith in your process. Surround yourself with people that allow you to continue to have faith in what it is that you're doing. So important. I see so many artists, songwriters, business people. I see so many people go wrong because they listen to other people and they don't have the faith in themselves to make the right decisions. So you go out and you ask all of these different people what they think, and you allow them to point you in the wrong decision. Because I'll say this, I think that it's almost 100% never going to work, and it's almost impossible to have faith in a direction that somebody else has set for you. It causes us to constantly question the direction. It causes us to constantly question ourselves, and we're questioning those people. If you find yourself in a situation where you're having to question all of these things and you don't feel secure and you don't feel solid in what it is that you're doing and you don't feel like your feet are firmly planted on the ground, then you don't have faith in that process. And maybe sometimes you've got to eliminate those things in your life, in your career, in your team. You've got to eliminate those people or those scenarios or those things. You've got to eliminate them so that you can formulate a plan, find a road, and set an end destination that you have 100% complete faith in. Step one, just to recap. Step one, admission. Step two, hope. Today's step, faith. Have faith in yourself. Have faith in the process, and have faith to know that when you make a decision, right or wrong, you have faith in it to see it through and take it to the end. Guys, thank you so much for joining me for another episode of the Steve Freeman Podcast. We're knee deep. We're not quite up to here yet, but we're knee deep in the 12-step program for musicians. Today's step 3, having faith. Guys, if you're enjoying the podcast and you're listening to it on any of the audio platforms, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, radio.com, please subscribe to the podcast. Leave us a 5-star review. If you're enjoying the video version of the podcast here on YouTube, then subscribe to the YouTube channel, like the video, and leave your thoughts and comments in the section below. I love reading your comments. I try to respond to each and every one. If you want to work with me one-on-one personally, you want a mentoring session or a coaching session, or work with me in the studio, you can find out everything you need to know at my website, thestevefreeman.com. Guys, as always, keep being creative, keep pressing the boundaries, and there's nothing wrong with being independent. See you in the next one.